Okay, today we are discuss করব that is file system. Okay, so what is file system? We know that database is a collection of related data. In computer system, in our computer system, we have different types of files. Okay, basically we are dealing with different number of files and different types of files. Whenever we try to create a simple text, and first we need to open that particular file and then stored information into that. Okay, and file are organized into some places, and these are called directories in Windows system and for yeah, directories in Unix system and folders in Windows system. Okay, so we have lots of files in this computer system, and all the operation within our computer system deals with various types of files. Okay, and we communicate with our different secondary storage in terms of files. Either we can read data in the form of files and write data in the form of files. Okay, so files consist of two distinct parts. In simple words, we can say that file is a collection of data. Okay, so each files storing related data, and directory is the structure where we can store the files. Okay, some file system may have another part is called partition, which are used to separate physical or logically large collection of directories. Okay, computers can store information on several different storage media. Okay, such as magnetic disk, magnetic tapes, optical disk, and these media has their intrinsic characteristics. Okay, that means the technology, how they uh, write data, and that means all these are different from the way of writing and reading information. Okay, so that the computer system will be convenient to use. The operating system provides a uniform logical view of information storage. That means apart from the physical difference among these media, okay, because they are different types of device, and their natures of reading, writing, or accessing data are different. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the operating system provide an abstract view. Okay, that means if we want to store information in secondary storage, or if we want to store optical storage or any flash drive or solid state drive, okay, the operating system provides a convenient way. That means whatever the internal structure is different, there is a common routine by which we can store information into this memory and retrieve this information from this storage, secondary storage. So the operating system abstracts from the physical properties of its storage devices to define a logical unit called files. Okay, so files are mapped onto the physical devices by the operating system. That means whatever the information, we have to either write on these physical devices or read from these devices. That means the basic interface is common. Basic interface is common, but whatever the technology, whatever the technique for accessing these devices are hide and manipulated by the operating system. Okay, so and these storage devices are usually non-volatile, so the contents are persistent to power failure and the system reboots. Okay, so a file is a named. That means if we want to access a particular block in the physical storage media, okay, so basically the read write process of magnetic disk in terms of block. Okay, and and the that means the unit of representation of data in physical disk in terms of block. So file is a named collection of related information. That means file is a named information that is recorded on secondary storage. Okay, and for user perspective, a file is the allotment of smallest allotment of logical secondary storage. Okay, and we cannot read and write data directly from the secondary storage unless they are within a file. Okay, and we have different types of file, either text file, binary files, executable files, and different types of files are there. Binary files basically are the image files, audio files, video files. These are the considered as a binary file. Okay, executable file and the text file. Okay, and the files is a sequence of bits, bytes, or lines or records the meaning of which is defined by the user or the creator. Okay, so that means we can distinguish a file by their type and the applications by which that particular files has been created. So files has certain attributes by which the operating system differentiate one files from others. That means the name, that means symbolic information, identifier. So for user perspective, we can reference or access a particular file by their name, but the system represents or access these files by using a identifier and which is unique throughout the systems. Okay, in unique systems, whenever a file is created, the system assign a unique identification number is called inode number. Okay, and this number is used to represent a particular file by the operating system. Okay, and name is the type of the file. Okay, location where it placed, size, size of that particular file, protection, that means either read, write, execute. These are the access permission. Okay, and time, date, and the user identification. These are the basic attributes of a particular file defined by the systems. Okay, now what are the various operations associated with files? Okay, basically here the file is the abstract type, and this file is a logical representation of information, logical uh, structure or representation of information on various type of different physical storage media. Okay, that means if that particular file represent, that particular file may represent the information stored in magnetic disk or optical disk. Okay, that in magnetic disk, the read write head basically use the magnetic technique, that means polarization of the magnetic poles represents information. Okay, but in optical media or optical storage drive such as CD or DVD, they use the light, that means laser technology, to represent the information. But but whatever the information the user may access in the form of a file are common. Okay, so basically all the files have certain different types of, when we create a particular file, or we can write something on that particular on that file, reading data from files, repositioning within a file, deleting a file, truncating a file. Okay, so these are the basic operations, file operations. Okay, next, whenever we have to open the file structure, we need different types of information. Okay, so the file pointer, that means a particular file represents a block within some secondary storage. Okay, and before accessing or manipulation of that information, then first we have to load that information into primary memory or the memory. Okay, file open count, how many times that particular file has been opened by various types of processes. Disk location of the files where that particular actually that files has been stored, access rights. Okay, these are the rights. That means either that particular file has read permission or write permission or executable permission. Okay, next these are the different types of files: executable, object file, source file, batch files, text file, word processor, library, print or view. Okay, archive files and multimedia files. Okay, next that the access method. Okay. So access method is that ultimately the information has been stored into the secondary storage, that means persistent media, and we have to access this information from, that means read or write information from this file. One is form, simple form is that sequential access. That means the information in the file is processed in order one after another. That means first record, then second record, then third record, in this way. And in direct access, a file is made up of fixed length records that are allow program to read write rapidly in randomly. Okay, that means to read a particular record in sequential access, that means we have to first process first record, then traverse second record, then third record, in this way. But in direct access, we can jump to that particular record by using their record size. Suppose the record size is 30 bytes. Okay, and the suppose and base address, that means the memory start from 0. Okay, if we want to jump to third record, so location is 2 into the size of record plus, that means 2 into the size of record plus the base address. Okay, so base address is 0, then 2 into size of, that means 30 bytes. So 30 into 30, that means the 60th location is the starting address of the third record. That means we can move our file pointer from 0 location to the 60th location. Okay, another method is that index method. So you have list of values are there with their logical record number. Okay, if we accessed any of these list, the whatever the value is that, we get the access logical record number, and we can access these files. Okay, so these are the access methods. Okay, that means we in operating systems we have different number of files. Okay, and how these files are organized into several directories or folders. That means a place where we can store information in the form of files. Okay, in some operating systems we can divide secondary storage into several partitions, and this partition ultimately is a huge size directory where we can store information. That means information where the files or subdirectories. Okay, and what are the operations? That means files is a collection of data, related data, but directory are the places where we can store information in the form of files. Okay, so what are the basic operation associated with directories? That means we can search a particular file, create a file within that particular directory, delete a file, listings, whatever the information associated with that particular directory, renaming a file, and traverse the file system. That means we can shift it from one directories to another directories. Okay. Now, operating systems may organize these directory structure into several forms. Okay. First is single directory structure. Okay. This is the simplest directory structure. All files are contained in the same directory, and which is easy to support and understand. That means we have directories and the files are theirs. Okay, there's whatever the information we have to search or create in the form of files stored in a single directories. Okay. That means there is a directory and these are the files. So a single level directory has significant limitation. Okay, when the number of files increases, or when the file systems has more than one user, okay, then there may severe problems. That means all these files has unique names. If, for example, two user call their data file test, then the unique name value is violated. Okay, that means in the single directory systems, information are represented by a single unique name. Okay, if multi-user system, for multi-user system, if two users say access or create the same type files, that means user A create a file which is called test, and user B create a file also called test. So system cannot store these files because these two names are unique. Okay. Next one is the sing and that means hierarchical. Instead of single levels, we can define a hierarchical structure for directories. Okay. So this is two level systems. And two level system, these are the user 1 has the following files, user 2 has following files, user 3 and following files. That means this, in this way we can segregate directories, directory structure into number of different types of users. Okay. Or we have three labels structures. Next, another problems in this directory level structure. Suppose two programmers who are working on joint project. Okay, the files associated with that project can be stored in a subdirectory. Okay, that means in a particular directory we have different number of files and also the subdirectories. Subdirectory basically a storage location within which it may have different number of files. Okay, stored in a subdirectories and separating them from other projects and files of these two programmers. But the programmers are equally responsible for the project and both want to access the subdirectory to be in their own directories. Okay, that means suppose a directory name, that means this, suppose a directory name called ABC or list, and they want to store this directory onto their own user directories. Okay, so the common way is common way is that that particular subdirectory has to be shared. A shared directory or file will exist in the file system in two or more places at once, and this type of representation is by acyclic graph directories. Okay, that means whenever these multi-level structure, these multi-level single level, two levels or three level structures are used when there is a single user system. But whenever there is a multi-user system and a particular files or directories may be accessed by two or more different types of programmers or applications or users, then there is a concept of shared directories or shared files. That means we can access, that means they try to access this shared this information from their own location. Okay. Next comes to the file system implementation. So every operating systems has their own file systems. For Windows system, there may be file allocation table and a FAT system, FAT32. Next is the NATO NTFS, new technology file systems. For Unix, it has own file system UFS. Okay, Linux. That means every operating system has their own file system. Basically, file systems are only all the information about the files and also the secondary storage information. Okay, it also contains, that means the operating system itself stored into the secondary memory. Okay, that means secondary memory is the persistent storage. All the information whatever has been stored into the secondary memory retains after the power cut or the switch of the systems. Okay, whenever the system is on, that means we plug on the power to that particular systems. The information stored in secondary memory to download the operating systems, to download the operating system, whatever the application we have to access or execute. First, we have to load that information to my secondary memory itself. The operating system stored into the secondary storage. So we have to load information. That means that operating systems into our second primary memory. So operating systems also maintains the where the initial code of the operating system has been found in the secondary storage, and this is called the boot sector. Okay, whenever this first initialization code of that operating system downloaded into the memory, then it automatically, then this code automatically load itself into the primary memory. Okay, the operating system. So the file system basically are used for storing, locating, and retrieval of information in the form of files easily. Okay, so these are the structure. That means application program, then application program creates a logical, that means creates files, that means the logical file system, and file organization modules that they are, then the basic file systems, IO control, and ultimately the device. Okay, so we have several on disk representation and in memory representation of the file systems. Okay, that means it can, file system can store information, whatever the information stored in the secondary storage. Okay, that means the boot control block. Okay, then the size, the everything in the secondary storage media is represented in terms of blocks. Okay, in paging system we know that we can divide our physical secondary storage media in terms of physical block, in terms of blocks, starting from 512 bytes to up to 4 GB size, whatever the size of the blocks represented by the systems. Okay, next is the file control block. That means where the information about the files permission, file states, owner permission, size of the files, and the data blocks or pointers to the data block. Okay, in Unix systems, sorry, in Unix systems, this file control block is called as a inode tables, and these tables contains the information about the files. Okay, that's more. That means the access. That means read, write, or access permissions of that files. In Unix system, we have three types of owner. That means the creator and the group and other users. Okay, and different times, access time, plus the creation time, access times, modifications times. That means these are the timestamps. Okay, and size of the particular files. Okay, so the physical memory, whatever the information we have to store in secondary storage in that form of files, in the form of blocks. Okay, initially in Unix system, the blocks may range from 512 bytes to 1 KB, depend on the systems. Okay, suppose we have a files and we store information. The size is 532, 530 bytes. So initially the block size is 512. So 512 store the first 512 bytes of the files, and second block is allocated for storing the rest of the information. Okay, so there are 10 0 to 9, 10 direct pointer are there to represent this physical block into the secondary storage, and these are the single indirect, double indirect, and triple indirect pointer which represents the ultimate physical blocks. Okay. Okay. Second. Next we have the security and protection. Okay, so the protection, what do you mean by protection? The protection is the mechanism or some kind of control mechanism that are used to control the access of programs, processes, or user to the resources defined by the computer systems. Okay, that means we can protect from these resources, either physical resources or logical resources. Okay, physical resources, that means the physical devices attached with the systems, and the logical resources basically the files, whatever the information stored in that particular systems. Okay, and the security ensures the authentication of the system user to protect the integrity of the information stored in the systems. Okay, so the security system prevents unauthorized access to a system, malicious destruction or alteration of data. Okay, so we need protection mechanism to protect the resources of our computer systems. That means to protect from mischievous intentional violation of access restriction by the user. Okay, that means the system may ensure that each program component is active in the system, uses system resources only in, only in a ways consistent wise. That means whatever the access permission has been assigned to that processes or to the user, they may bound within that domain. Okay, and also protection improve the reliability by detecting the internal or latent error at the interface between component and the subsystems. Okay, that means we are protecting different physical resources or the applications or the processes from the unauthorized access. So that means our systems is a collection of processes and objects. The objects are the both hardware objects, that means CPU, memory segments, printer, disk, tape drives, etc., and the software objects, basically such as the file, programs, semaphores. Okay, and each object has been accessed in the systems by a unique name and differentiate each other from, that means other objects in the systems. So This is called the domain of the systems. And we can define, that means this is a particular domain D1 which has a object OB2, that means OB2, OB1 and OB3. So OB1 has the read and write permission within that domain. Okay, and these are two domains. Whenever a applications or processes has been bound within that particular domain structure, it may have to access this set of objects with their representation, whatever the access permissions has been allocated to the systems. Okay, D1 and D3, and these object, that means the object name and the rights pair defined within that domain structure. So in this domain, that means the object 4 and print permission are common to this domain. Okay, so either any of these processes try to access different resources in the computer system may fall within that domain. Okay, and these domains may be fixed throughout the lifetime of the process, or process may switch from one domain to another domain. Okay, that means static structure or a dynamic structure for the processes. Okay, so we can represent this domain information in the form of tables. It's called the access matrix. Okay, and this matrix we have domains, and these are the objects. That means the file 1 file 1, file 2, file 3 printers, and within that domain has their access rights. Okay, if any process, any one of these process belongs to or associated with that particular domain structure, they may access the following objects with the following rights. These are the access matrix. Okay, so next is the security part. That means we are protecting our system from these malicious activities. Okay, and another is the security. How can we secure our systems? Okay, that means and these security mechanisms are applied for a standalone systems or the network systems. Okay, we can protect our systems by means either at physical level. Okay, that means using some mechanism to protect, lock and key mechanism, that means to restrict the unauthorized access, or human level, or network level, or operating system level. Okay, so these security violation or misuse of the system may leads different types of problems within our systems. Okay, that means breach of confidentiality. Okay, that means a particular malicious user or unauthorized user may read or theft informations from user systems, breach of integrity by means that particular unauthorized person or hacker may modify the existing data, or breach of availability. That means it will may cause several damages in the system by means of, that means deleting files, okay, or destruction of the whatever the information stored in the files, okay, theft of services. That means it will drop down, or using some methods or techniques that will restrict the authorized user to use that specific services, and ultimately the denial of service, preventing legitimate use of the systems by the user or by the process. Okay, so simple. That means miscoding technique. This is the actual original sender and the receiver. There is an attacker which reside in between them. Okay, so by using malicious code or some technique, that attacker may try establish a connection between this sender and receiver and bypass the state information by using this attacker. Okay, so it act as an relaying station. Whatever the information sent by the sender, that information may manipulate by the attacker and transmit to the receiver. Both the sender and receiver are unaware of these type of attacks. Okay, so the we can measure physical level, human level, and the operating systems level. Okay, for simple user, these are the, for a particular user, we may protect our systems by using in the form of password, okay, or by using some other biometric representation or fingerprint or retina. Next, there are common threats in our systems and the programs. These are the, that means these threats may cause different type of damages in the systems, and we may classify either program threats or the system threats. And program threat, that means whenever a programmer design a program that has been used by diff that has been used by another user, then this type of threat may occur. That means there is a special code or technique. Actually, they are the malicious or mischievous codes attached to that particular program, and this may cause either damage to the system or restrict access to the authorized user, or stealing some information, sensitive information from the systems in the form of Trojan horse, trapdoor, and stack overflow. Trojan horse basically are the intentional code that are attached to that particular systems. Okay, whenever that particular code may be executed by the system, that will damage the systems. Okay, and trapdoor basically the designer of the program or the system might leaves a special area called as a hole, and that particular hole or section may has been used or accessed by the programmers. And whenever these user a programmer try to access or stealing some information from these from the system where it has been executed or loaded, they may use that particular special codes or holes to stealing the information. And stack overflow or buffer overflow basically the technique where we restrict or decreased the system performance by overflowing the buffer system. Okay, whatever the information or switches from primary memory to secondary memory, there is a buffer which first loads the information and that will transfer from the primary memory or secondary memory. If there is a if we overflow or this buffer by the means of different technique, we cannot prevent the system for reading, writing or loading information. Okay, so these are the program threads, and next another category is the system threat in the form of worms, virus and denials of service. Okay, so worms are the process, worms are the process, that means that has the facilities, that means that particular programs has some uses some technique, that means was it will spawn new, that means it will create new processes and degrade the system performance. That means it may create the multiple copies of itself and stored in the different place of the file systems or the secondary storage. Automatically the size of the storage media decreases due to the malicious copy of the information. That means that particular codes forms direct the impact on the system. It will impact to the system by the means of copying the unnecessary code into the systems several times. Okay, that means it will decrease the main memory systems and the obviously the physical storage system. So the system may run slowly. Okay, and another form is the viruses. Okay, that means this will infect the files and the directories by the means of the same technique. That means they are designed to spread into other programs. Okay, and They have the intentional code that will affect the modification or destruction of files and causing system crashes and program malfunctioning. Okay, so viruses are the fragmented code embedded in our legitimate programs. Okay, and lastly, the denial of service, that means by preventing a legitimate user or authorized user or processes from accessing a particular resource, that means resources. So an intruder could delete all the files on the systems. Okay, that means if someone unauthorized user deletes all the system files within a particular computer systems, then the authorized user or any process cannot access on it because the sum of the important file has been missing. So it will automatically degrade the performance. That means ultimately restrict the process or user or executing or accessing some of the resources. So we need different protection mechanism from standalone system to the network systems. Okay, so this is for today. Okay, the next class আমাদের দুটো থেকে আছে, হ্যাঁ? হ্যালো, হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ স্যার, শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
हाँ सर।
বললাম নেক্সট ক্লাস
हाँ
তাহলে
सर
দুটো
बोल।
থেকে
হ্যাঁ, দুটো
ঠিক
থেকে।
আছে?
হ্যালো, হ্যালো।
হ্যালো,
হ্যাঁ, বলুন। হ্যাঁ, স্যার।
ওকে, তাহলে লিভ করে দিতে হবে।